We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this rebel outpost. Projections say that PATC is going to lose between 200 and 250 subscribers during this live show. So if you want to support a dying college football YouTube channel because of what we're going to talk about during the live show today, with a donation to help us keep the lights on, hit that $ where you make your comment, and I'll get to Super Chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Well, buckle in, strap up. This is going to be a long CFP, PATC live show. If you need to leave, come back. Please do. If you need to turn off this live show because you might be a little bit too sensitive, Go ahead. I have been giving Brett Yormark flowers ever since October 30, 2022. That was the day that Yormark signed, sealed, and delivered that new media deal. And on that live show, go back and watch it. Go back and watch it. I declared that Brett Yormark hit a grand slam home run. I was absolutely buried by a lot of people because they said Brett Yormark left money on the table, that the Pac-12 was going to get a much better deal. I have given Brett Yormark flowers on the expansion. I have given him more flowers than any other commissioner since he has arrived on the scene, and it's not even close. Not even close. But not today. A lot of you are going to disagree with me, and that is great. Put it in the comments. Put it in the super chats. Give me a phone call. We are going to be on the air for a long time today. The little general, she knows it. We have got a lot to cover today. It's going to be a long monologue. Greg, your shows go on too long. Sorry. We cover everything in college football. Greg, you talk too much football during the off season. I'm sorry, but we got the Iowa State Cyclones spotlight we need to do today. We need to do the Cyclones. Right now, in my way too early college football playoff predictions, I've got the Cyclones in the playoffs. So we can't skip on that. We've got a long... Greg. You are nothing but a Big Ten mouthpiece. This is why you're going after Yormark so much. Not true, but I can't prove it. Other than there's no way that I would ever be allowed to go to the Big Ten media days. I'm person non grata at Rosemont, Illinois. Not to mention, I've been ripping on Tony Petitti more than anybody else. I ripped on Kevin Warren more than anybody else. I gave the peek around the corner that Kevin Warren was the problem, that he needed to leave before the Big Ten expanded with Oregon and Washington. I gave you that peek. And I was raked over the coals by some Big Ten pom-pom waivers out there. It turned out to be true. No, I'm not a Big Ten mouthpiece. I'm going to be accused of it more today. I just have a very strongly held opinion. That's all I got. You let me know how wrong I am, but my opinion comes from an authentic place. I do not think this is good at all for the Big 12, for the ACC. What Brett Yormark said today, I think, is a complete fumble in more ways than one. The SEC has the same data as the Big Ten, as the Big 12, in fact, Brett Yormark even said today, we're going to go through the reporting. Brett Yormark even said today that this might not be a good thing for the Big 12 short term, but because of the vision we have and we're getting better, whatever he said. The data doesn't show that this is good for the Big 12. 5+11 with the SEC staying at 8 conference games This is not good. But I get it. I get it. Look, I'm not upset with the Big 12 fan base. You might be upset with me. Look, I get it. There's a lot of optimism running wild in Big 12 country. I think that's fantastic. I think Arizona State's got a real good shot to get to the semifinals, maybe to the national finals, maybe win the whole damn thing. I get it. The Big 12 fans are passionate. Look at the recruiting. And it would be hypocritical of me. It would be hypocritical of me to say, yeah, but Big 12, look at the last 6-7 years. Big 12, you've only had one playoff win. That would be hypocritical. That's not a good argument. Because I've been telling the SEC fans, you can't be taking 10 years of data because everything changed a couple of years ago. So I understand the Big 12's argument. I understand the best argument that Brett Yormark has. We cannot be looked upon as an inferior conference. We cannot agree. We cannot agree to this auto bid format that gives us less auto bids. That is the best argument. The problem is, even with that very good valid point, it gets washed away by all the other arguments that land, in my opinion, on the auto bid model. So I've got we have, this is going to be a long monologue because we're going to tap into this, but we're going to get back into this at the back end of the monologue. We're going to start this monologue talking about Scott Frost because I've got some choice words to say. I have been as gentle as possible with Scott Frost. I have spent time on this show behind this microphone soft shoeing my way around explaining what happened in Dublin, Ireland. But not any. Well, I'm not going to go into details, but not anymore. When you look, UCF, good luck, great fan base. Orlando, Florida, you're going to survive the Scott Frost era. You're going to come back, whatever. But when UCF hired Scott Frost, I gave that hire a grade of D/F. A D if the guy grows up. An F if he doesn't grow up. Well, he hasn't grown up yet. The man has not grown up yet. What he said today at the Big 12 Media Days is god-awful. This is a man that would not take any accountability at Lincoln, Nebraska. None. He buried his players. Press conference after press conference. And now he buries Nebraska. A Minnesota Golden Gopher, even on a national college football YouTube channel, I try to call the balls and strikes the best I can. Of course, I got biases, just like you all do. I like to pile on Nebraska, but my God, what a stupid statement from a man, from the one person who should not be saying it. It's okay if UCF fans say it. It's okay if Big 12 fans say it. it's not okay for Scott Frost to say what he said. The inability of Scott Frost not to take accountability is breathtaking. Good luck, UCF. This is your second time around. I get it. You had a great year at UCF. You were an abomination at Nebraska. And no, it's not all Nebraska's fault. I am sorry. We're going to talk about the very first day that Scott Frost became the head coach of Nebraska. On that first day, the fat guy from Minnesota, I literally was laughing my bleep off. So were Big Ten fans from across the country. Because what he said in that press conference showed he had no business being in the Big Ten. It is Scott Frost's issue. Nebraska has their own issues. A lot of bad hires. Mike Riley, a lot of bad hires. But the fan base, the incredible large fan base that gives that university, that athletic department, so many resources, that blows away 90% of the Big Ten, 99% of the Big 12, 95% of the ACC. Nebraska was not the issue for Scott Frost. The issue for Scott Frost was Scott Frost. So we're going to start with that. But we got a lot to get to. I am all fired up. Again, projections, I lose 200 to 250 subscribers today. Projections, I drink 2.5 no sugar cherry Cokes today. Okay. Let's get to it. Let me get to the super chats first. Thank you guys so much. Daniel Gorby. Just keep the playoff to 12. If Tony Petitti has any intestinal fortitude, the playoffs will start at 12. Just stay at 12. A lot of Big Ten people are saying the same thing that Mr. Seminole Daniel Gorby said here in the super chat. Just keep it at 12. Why in the hell would the Big Ten want to go from 5 plus 11 to 5 plus 7 to 5 plus 11? But that's not even the worst part of this 5 plus 11. It's not even the worst. We're going to get to it. As much as I ripped on Tony Petitti, when he finally had that interview with Joe Klatz, he focused in on something that, in my opinion, is undeniably true. And Yormark, Phillips, Sankey, with all due respect, has no answer, has no comeback, has no arguments. They have not touched, they have not dented what Tony Petitti said in that Joe Klatz interview on one huge particular part of creating a playoff format. Creating a playoff format should enhance, make your regular season more valuable. 5 plus 11 doesn't do that. Not even close. Not even, you know what it makes it more valuable? You know what it enhances? 5+11, it enhances the talking heads. That's all it enhances the selection committee. It enhances the propaganda. It enhances ESPN. It does not enhance, it does not create more value to the regular season. We're going to get all into that. Daniel Gorby, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so very much. Expedition Greg, Mr. Buckeye, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Ricky Tungate, let's get to some games. Tired of all this nonsense. Thank you, Mr. Hoosier. Appreciate it. We're talking football every single day on PATC. But we got to get to this. This is important. This is about the battle of what vision is, what is going to happen for the next 5 years. And 5+11 is god awful. God awful. Thank you so much, Ricky Tungate. Thank you so much, Mr. Hoosier, for your incredible generosity. Larry Andrick, Mr. Mountaineer, gift membership to Adrian Archer. Adrian, when you get an opportunity, please say thank you to Mr. Larry Andrick for his incredible generosity. Both of you are knighted cloak and dagger. Adrian Archer, go to our library of episodes. You can watch them all, including members-only episodes, Early Peak, Cloak, and Dagger. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate it so very much. I appreciate it so very much. Okay, you know what? Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I do appreciate everybody for joining us. We are going to be disagreeing with each other. And that is okay. There should be no problem with us disagreeing with each other. Okay? So be gentle in the chat room. If you really want to get out your frustrations, put them out on me. Throw me your elbows. Okay? Number one, before we get to the Iowa State Cyclones, PATC Spotlight. Chris Vanini, UCF coach Scott Frost, and what he learned from Nebraska. Don't take the wrong job. Don't take the wrong job. Look, again, I'm a Golden Gopher. Most of the time, I'll pile on Nebraska. I'll take shots at the evil Badgers. I'll throw an elbow at the Hawkeyes. The Minnesota Golden Gophers have whooped up on the Cornhuskers. Beat them 5 times in a row. They have become a redheaded stepbrother. However, it in large part to do with Scott Frost and the horrific hire of Coach Riley. Nebraska is a very good job. It is. It has a lot of resources. It's incredible. The amount of money, the NIL money, the money for facilities. They're building. It is a great job. Now, is it as elite as Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State? No, it's not. Right now, it's not. But the recruiting classes are high and everything. Again, their coaching has been brutal. And Nebraska has run up against an Iowa Hawkeye program that has been very, very consistent Coach Ferentz. Nebraska's had an unbelievable time trying to beat the Iowa Hawkeyes. Wisconsin Badgers have held the consistent advantage over Nebraska. Since PJ Fleck has arrived at Minnesota, Minnesota has crushed Nebraska. For every win, there is a loss. Nebraska has fallen behind. We'll see what Matt Rule does here. Dylan Raiola is a fantastic quarterback. I think he is. And he got through all last year without having an injury. He got all the reps. He got all the snaps. I think Nebraska's going to go 8-4 this year. Some people have them as a surprise CFP contender. I don't quite have them that high. But Nebraska is not the problem. Sure, it has its challenges. Like 90% of us. It has its challenges. But you got a guy like, you hire Scott Frost, who is a champion quarterback. He comes on in here. And Scott Frost at Lincoln, Nebraska, in his press conference on day one, Scott Frost says, we're not going to have to change for the Big Ten. The Big Ten is going to have to change for us. Scott Frost went from UCF AAC country to the Big Ten and said in his press conference, we're not going to change anything we do. The Big Ten has to change to play against us. I literally was laughing my bleep off. And I said it, I did not have a college football YouTube channel at the time. I wish I did. But on Twitter, I lit Scott Frost up. You cannot go to the Big Ten. You cannot go to the Big Ten and have 15 design running plays for your quarterback. You cannot have 15 design running plays from your quarterback who's some track star in South Florida or somewhere in Southern California. You cannot have an offense that throws flat passes along the line of scrimmage and you don't go deep at all at Nebraska under Scott Frost's stupid offense. You can do that in UCF. You can do that in AAC country. Maybe you can pull it off in Big 12 country. You cannot do that in Big 10 country. You're going to get your quarterback killed. That's what everybody said. And what happened at Nebraska? Every single one of their running quarterbacks got killed. This boring Big 10 football, well, it's loaded up with linebackers. Linebackers that go to the NFL. Safeties that go to the NFL. And if they don't have to worry about the deep ball, if they just have to worry about your quarterback running and your passes on the line of scrimmage, you're going to get your offense. You're going to get your quarterback. You're going to get your wide receivers killed. Your offensive line is going to get dominated. Nobody is on their heels playing against the Scott Frost offense. Everybody were on their tippy toes, crashing the line, and everybody in the Big Ten had a party. That's not Nebraska's fault beyond hiring an incompetent head coach. That is your fault, Scott Frost. And every single year, Scott Frost would blame the players. Go ask a Cornhusker fan. Every time Scott Frost buried his players, never took accountability. And now today, he says, I just took the wrong job. No, you did a horrific job. You did an unbelievable bad job. Nebraska has not, I think in the last 9 years, Nebraska has won more than 3 conference games once. With all that money pouring into that athletic program, it's embarrassing how bad Scott Frost did. But he won't tell you that. He's just going to bury Nebraska, just like he buried his players. This is a guy that went completely off the rails. In his last year as the head coach, I'm not going to go into details. But unprofessional as can be. And now he's still unprofessional today. So that is why I brought it up on X. That is why I'm bringing it up on this live show. People saying, well, Nebraska's, they're struggling, not that good a job. It can't be all Scott Frost's problem. Nebraska's no good. They'd be bad in the Big 12. Scott Frost is doing a much better job at UCF. With all respect to UCF, he's not. He's just a bad coach. I do not expect anything from UCF until they get rid of him. He's going to bury the UCF players. He's going to bury his coordinators. He's going to even bury his fans before he takes any accountability. Again, I do not take up for Nebraska. But on this day, holy smokes. I think you just needed to hear it from a certain perspective. The guy was a joke. People, I'm trying to be kind here, but people, there's so many things that have been left unsaid. The Nebraska beat writers, they have been very kind to Scott Frost. And for him to bury the program like he did today, man, your character, good luck. Good luck, UCF. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say on that one. Okay, let's do the spotlight here. Let's go on to the spotlight. I'm all revved up. We are going to get to your phone calls, and I'm hoping the phone calls work. I did not test them. I did not test the phone calls before we started. So, now he threw shade at Nebraska. He said, Eric Ruby, I don't think Frost threw shade. He just said he shouldn't have left UCF. He was building a very good team at UCF and couldn't get his type of guys at Nebraska for his system. He did get his type of guys. That was the problem. That system wasn't going to work in the Big Ten. He did look at the recruiting rate. Look at the players he got. But it wasn't going to work in the Big Ten. And he did. He said, I should not have. He said today that I said I would only go to a place that I could win a national championship. Therefore, I should not have gone to Nebraska. He buried Nebraska today. Now, I get it, Eric Ruby. I get it, UCF fans. You want to believe? Go ahead and believe. Go ahead and believe. It's welcome back, Cotta, just like what's going on at Morgantown. Maybe it will work out for you. But the things that have not been said about Scott Frost, I hope, look, the only chance, I'm being serious, the only chance that Scott Frost has is he's got to grow up. And this is not a great indication of it. You do not have to bury Nebraska to push UCF up. All you got to say is, All you got to say is, I'm glad to be back at UCF. This is where I belong. We can win the national. You don't have to say, what have you learned from the job at Nebraska? That it was the wrong job. So good luck. I got nothing against UCF. It's an exciting program, an exciting fan base, an unbelievable market. I got the bounce out. I got no problems with UCF. I got a problem with your head coach. Don't be surprised if you don't have a problem with them 2 or 3 years from now. I know you got a lot of positive feelings about it because he did an incredible job there. But he did get the guys, the system, to run his system. That is the biggest misnomer of them all. But that system doesn't work in Big Ten. It does not. Scott Frost never, ever even tried to establish an RB1 at Nebraska. Guys didn't know their role. It was a mess. Absolute mess at Lincoln. But that's enough. That's enough of Lincoln, Nebraska, and Scott Frost. Good luck, UCF. Hopefully you got, nobody should expect a whole lot in year one. So I'm not going to dog Scott Frost on year one. I'm not going to do it. But again, watch what he says at the press conferences. Justin R., I want you, thank you for the super chat. I want UCF to go 6-6 and lose all 6 games by a score. By strange ways. Fumble return for touchdown, pick 6 for touchdown, safety mouth. Nebraska, they lost a lot of close games. They lost a lot of close games to teams that they were like 12-point favorites over. They could never. That offense was just. You cannot have 15 design runs in Big Ten football for your quarterback. It ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. Just isn't. But he thought he was going to change the Big Ten. Let's get to it. Thank you for the super chat, Justin R. I do appreciate it so very much. Rocco Becht, Iowa State Cyclones. Now again, in my way too early PATC predictions, I've got the Cyclones in the college football playoffs. I've got the Cyclones going to the Big 12 championship game and losing to Arizona State. However, I'm going to be changing that. I'm going to have Baylor in the Big 12 championship game. So what am I going to do with Iowa State? I'm going to have them on the bubble. They're going to be one of about 8 bubble teams for the college football playoffs. I've got them finishing 3rd. Last year, I had Iowa State finishing 3rd. Iowa State has got a quarterback that is ready to go. Baylor has a quarterback that is ready to go. Arizona State's got a quarterback that is ready to go. Avery Johnson, I need to see him elevate. Devin Dampier, he is a big wild card. We do not know what's going on at BYU. So I got Iowa State along with Baylor, along with Arizona State, the top 3 in the Big 12. It starts with Rocco Becht. Over 3,500 yards passing. 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. 59.4 completion percentage. 138.1 quarterback rating. 318 yards rushing. Rocco Becht, if he goes up another level, if he goes up another level, he is going to be, Iowa State is going to be in the Big 12 again, in the championship game again. Carson Hansen, 752 yards rushing. Going to be RB1 for the whole season for the Cyclones. 5.6 average yards per rush. 13 rushing touchdowns last year. 13 receptions. Big, tough. He's a tough running back. And I think he's going to get the rock a lot more. The one that I'm worried about is Abu Sama. I was big on Sama heading into last year. 2 years ago, he average rush was over 7 yards. Not so much last year. He got a little nicked up. He is the home run threat in Ames, Iowa. He is the home run threat for Coach Campbell. 587 yards rushing. 4.7 average rush, 2 rushing touchdowns. I think he's squarely RB2 for the Iowa State Cyclones. They got to be pretty happy with their backfield. They got to be pretty happy with the quarterback. The worry point for the Cyclones, in my opinion, is at the wide receiver position. We all know they lost Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins to the NFL. They've received 2 transfers. The one I'm going to put up here is Xavier Townsend. 2023. Not last year. He only played like 4 games last year. 2023, 33 receptions, 325 receiving yards. This is from UCF. The reports out of spring camp, if you go to Iowa State 247, Cyclone Fanatic, spring camp in the month of April, Xavier Townsend was considered electric. They're very high on them. Very high on the Cyclones are very high on Xavier Townsend. Now, the person that I'm not going to have up here is Chase Sowell, the transfer from East Carolina, who's going to be the Cyclones' long ball threat. So they're going to need production out of Townsend and Sowell, the 2 transfer wide receivers. Benjamin Brahmer is the tight end, and they're expecting him to have a big season. And we talked about Dominic Orange last year. Whoops, I got the wrong picture up. That is not correct. That is not Dominic Orange. My bad. Nose guard for the Cyclones. There are stories about how a lot of people went after Dominic Orange. They went after him last year, but he decided to stay in Ames, Iowa. So they got a big old nose guard, a dominant nose guard. This is the Iowa State football schedule. We know about Dublin, Ireland, Kansas State, Iowa State. We're going to be doing a watch party here at Peak Around the Corner. Then they're going to play South Dakota. South Dakota has a 6-year quarterback from my neck of the woods. Pretty good quarterback, a lefty, South Dakota. Then they play Iowa, the Cy-Hawk game, Iowa State, Iowa. Their second Big 12 game is going to be at home against Arizona. Then on the road at Cincinnati. On the road to Colorado. Then at home against BYU. In the crucial game, another home game against Arizona State. You gotta like Iowa State having a home game against BYU the week after another home game against Arizona State. Yeah, Arizona State. So I think the schedule plays out pretty good. Plays out pretty good for the Cyclones. Again, I had them at number 2 in the Big 12, and right now I've got them at number 3. We'll see what PATC does with our official predictions in August. Put down your comments. Let me know how wrong I got Iowa State Cyclones. I had them coming in 3rd last year, and I was laughed out of the studio by you Einsteins. They came in 2nd. They went to the Big 12 championship game. I think they're going to be knocking on the door. Iowa State, Arizona State, Baylor. They have a quarterback advantage. So could Kansas State if Avery Johnson just makes another half a step up, leap. Iowa State is, the Cyclones are probably going to have another good defense again. They've got that linebacker who was injured last year, Caleb Bacon, who was sensational 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He got injured. He's back. The Cyclones have always had a good defense under Coach Campbell. And I think they're going to have enough offense if those transfer wide receivers produce. That's the question mark for the football program, the proud football program in Ames, Iowa. Nobody laughs at Greg the Cold. Nobody. Stormy Cyclone, best tight end room in the Big 12. Watch them perform. Yeah, they got Braumer, and then they got Gabe Durko, who's a junior. 84, number 84. Absolutely. Great tight end room. But you're going to need some production out on the outside. Townsend, who knows? We shall see. Thank you, Stormy, for the super chat. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. That is how... that is your spotlight. Now, Devil Frog. Notice how the Big Ten fans pretend to oppose the selection committee bias, but then remain silent about the media bias of the preseason polls? Well, you're not talking about me, because I talk about the media bias in the preseason polls that favor the Big Ten and the SEC. I've talked about it. But Devil Frog, now you might disagree with me, but I'm not some part of some grand conspiracy. I just have a very strongly held opinion. And by the way, I think the data shows it. Go read Bill Conley's. We're going to get to that story next. Read Bill Conley's data. Bill Conley today he said some comments. The data, if the SEC stays at 8 conference games and it goes from 5+7, 5+11, I'm sorry, but those preseason polls are still going to be in effect. Those metrics are going to be tweaked in SEC's favor. The strength, it's all going to be favored the SEC. Who was that guy? Paul Revere. The fat guy from Minnesota is too fat to sit on a horse. Plus, I don't want the horse flies. So I'm not riding the horse, whipping, going through the towns of Big 12 country, going through the towns of ACC country, and yelling, the SEC is coming. The SEC is coming. 5+11. The SEC is coming. I'm not going to get on a horse. I don't want to damage the horse. I don't want to cause pain to the horse. So I'm going to sit in the studio and be the Paul Revere of 2025. This is not a good place to be for the Big 12. Yes, I believe Yormark has fumbled this. After giving him more flowers than any other commissioner, I see some other shots in the chat room, which is fine. It was a fumble because the Big 12 did not cheerlead for our participation prizes. Big 10 homers. Well, Devil Frog, are you cheerleading the SEC? Possibly. Maybe. Ryan Willie, the Evil Badger. Locked On Big 10 predicts Bucky will finish in the bottom third. Scary Alvarez said that the Bucky is an afterthought nationally. Does Fickle survive a bottom third finish? Even though I don't believe in Fickle, I got to believe in the players. No question, Ryan Willie. You got to believe in the players. I know you are excited about this season. Of course you are. I've answered this question before. I do not know what record Fickle needs. I think it's more important how he finished the season than how he starts. If the Badgers get wiped out by Alabama, I don't think it's a big deal for Fickle. But if Fickle gets wiped out by Iowa and Minnesota, loses to Minnesota yet again, then we got a problem in Madison, Wisconsin. So for me, it's not even about the record. It's about who you defeated, who you lost to. If that makes any sense. Badgers have to finish strong this year for him to keep his job. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for the huge super chat. Thank you so very much. I do appreciate it. The schedule is brutal. The schedule is brutal. Absolutely correct, Bobby Hansen. Thank you, Ryan Willie. It was a great game last year. Nerf, Iowa State versus Iowa. What was it, like 1917? Iowa State got the win. I lost that game against the spread, though. I said the Cyclones would whip up on the Hawkeyes. So I still lost that game. Have you ever seen a horse, Greg? Yeah, I've been on a horse. I've been on a horse. My uncle that I've talked about here many times, he had a farm, horses, ride on the horses all the time. But again, I'm going to do the Paul Revere job in this studio. I don't think I don't think the 5+11 model means Yormark is kissing the SEC. Okay, true. In my opinion, though, the SEC is loving every minute of this. They're loving all of this because the data shows where all this is heading. If we go down the 5+11 road, let's talk about it. Let's go into it. Ryan Willie, Bucky crushed Nebraska in the Big Ten title game when the Big Ten had the Legends and Leaders divisions. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for the super chat. I appreciate it so very much. Let's first get through the media days. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Adam Rittenberg, Baylor coach Dave Aranda. This is the most talented team since I've been at Baylor. The Bears won the Big 12 in 2021. PATC has Baylor in the Big 12 championship game. The question is, am I going to have Baylor in the national tournament, in the playoffs? They're on the bubble, along with Iowa State, along with a whole bunch of teams. Adam Rittenberg, Iowa State coach Matt Campbell. I'd say probably our top 20 guys took a pay cut to come back to Iowa State. A lot of those guys had some really good opportunities. Matt Campbell has built a strong culture in Ames, Iowa. Players like to play for him. Houston. Dorati, Joseph. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark says the league continues to support the 5-11 college football playoff model because it's the right playoff format. We do not need a professional model because we are not the NFL. We are college football and we must act like it. Now, Big 12 country is cheering this comment. I happen not to agree. There is a reason why the NFL has their model the way they have it. Because it produces a more valuable regular season. The 5+11 does not do that in any way, shape, or form. The biggest weakness of 5+11, besides the fact that the Southeastern Conference is going to drink up a lot of people's milkshake, is it does not increase the value of the regular season versus the AQ model. It falls well short. Karan Shakar, Greg Joe Klatt Flugar. Yes. I listen to Joe Klatt. I listen to Josh Pate. More importantly, I listen to Tony Petitti. I would rather have an AQ model that is adjustable. It should not be cemented. The numbers should not be true every single year. It should be based on some sort of performance. But the AQ model is way better than the 5-11. We'll get into it. We've been into it. 5-11 does nothing but give more power to the selection committee and brings on more propaganda, more talking heads, more confusion. You do not know your pathway to the playoffs. You do not know your pathway to the playoffs. But an AQ model that has 3 at-large bids, you can still have those discussions. You can still have all that drama with the committee with 3 teams, not 11. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, the Big 12 remains open for business. Ross Dellinger, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark says he expects multiple teams from his league to make the 12-team playoff this year and show once again we can compete with anyone. Okay. I got more to go through, but I'm gonna take a stop here. That's great. That's great. Show once again we can compete with anyone. I got no problem with that. I got no problem with the Big 12 fans being all optimist. You know what, though? The SEC has optimism. The Big Ten has optimism. The ACC has optimism. For all the money that is being poured in the Big 12 programs, same thing is happening around the country. So while it is natural, it is good, it is passionate that the fans are drinking all the Kool-Aid, the commissioner, he expects multiple teams from his league to make the 12-team playoff. Good. And you should be announcing that. If you expect multiple teams in a Big 12 to make the playoffs, in a 12-team playoffs, you should expect multiple bids in a 16-team playoff. Right? With the potential of even getting more when it comes to at-large bids. Now, last year, the Big 12 got one And it was a down year in the SEC. SEC fans won't admit it. It was a down year in the SEC. The Big 12 would have gotten one team in a 16-team playoffs last year, and a down year for the SEC. Again, the data is out there. Go Google it. Go read Bill Conley's. He's adamant about it. He has run the simulations 1,000 times. The Big Ten gets screwed out of a 5+11 if the SEC stays at 8 conference games. You all can yell at me. Each and every one of you can yell at me. But the Big 12, everyone's looking at the same data. You know, once the season starts, the preseason polls, the strength, the schedule, it ain't. Let's get through this, and then we'll go through the AQ model once again versus the 5-11. The Big 12 Commissioner, Brett Yormark, I want this conference to be a global conference. We've talked about this in detail here at Peek Around the Corner over the last month. We talked about how the SEC conference is talking to Goldman Sachs. It was reported. We talked about how the 4 equity firms lined up and gave their presentations to the Big Ten. That was publicly reported. We at Peek Around the Corner have given you one of the major reasons why. The SEC and the Big Ten wants to push their brands globally. We had a couple of live shows just in and around this issue. We gave you the Peek Around the Corner. The Big 12 looking at the same thing. I want this conference to be a global conference. And what these conferences are looking at is they're going to need a partner. They're going to need a partner outside of their current media partners, outside of the core of their conference. That is why they're talking to these private equity firms. That is why they're talking to private capital. That is why they're talking to partners, potential partners in Europe, South America, Asia, Pacific Rim. That is why they're doing all this, to push their brand globally, especially the Southeastern Conference, especially the Big Ten. And the Big 12 is doing it too, and the ACC is doing it too. We talked about the globalization of media, and the SEC is going to get all in that, and the Big Ten is going to get all in that, just like the Premier League in Europe is making bags of cash here in the America market. Football, the NFL is making big bucks in Europe. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to lead the way and do that as well. Ross Dellinger. Brett Yormark and the CFP selection committee process. I have a lot of faith in the selection process. They are doing a full audit of the selection process to figure out how to modernize. To figure out how to modernize and use data and how certain metrics can be weighted and blah, 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 blah. Look, guys, I gotta be authentic here. This is all bobbly-goo. Bobbly, 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 bobbly-goo. I've given Brett Yormark more flowers than any other commissioner, and it's not even close, over the last 3 years. But not today. Not today. I'm going to have to eat a cheeseburger because of Brett Yormark. So yeah, some of this is personal. But come on. What are we doing here? I have a lot of faith in the selection process. They're doing a full audit. Oh my gosh, an audit. And how to modernize and use data. And so tell me, Mr. Yormark. Tell me, Mr. Sankey. If you use all the metrics that you want to use and be it modernized, and what results do you get from last year's games? Do you get the same 12-team playoffs? What are the changes that is made in this new modernized, use data and certain metrics? Come on. What is this? You know what? At the end of this year, we are going to have a bunch of 10-2 and 9-3 teams. They're going to be all bunched up, and the selection committee is going to do the best they can. Right? And it's going to be they're going to look at those SEC teams. They're going to look at some Big Ten teams. You know what's going to happen. You've seen it in the past. Sankey believed those 9-3 SEC teams, Alabama, that lost to Oklahoma 24-3? Alabama didn't even score a touchdown. They lost the. They thought that 9-3 Alabama should have been in the playoffs. This is the modernized data that you want to use? Come on. This is a mess. And going from 5 plus 11, 5 plus 7 to 5 plus 11 only creates more of a mess. This is unbelievable. I'm shocked that Yormark would say something like this with a straight face. Again, let me know exactly what a full audit does. Modernize and use data in certain metrics. How does that change last year's playoffs? Hey, Yormark, you wouldn't have gotten any more Big 12 teams in. The SEC would have gotten more. That's what Sankey wants. That's what Sankey's going to get if you continue to go down this road. That's why the title of the show is Yormark Fumbled. Brett Yormark. Well, I already did that one. Brett Yormark in the CFP model. I'm doubling down today on the 5-11. He said he expects the ACC Commissioner, Jim Phillips, to do the same. I'm confident we'll get to the right place. I'm confident we'll get to 5-11. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Brett Yormark. You will only get to 5-11 if the SEC goes to 9 conference games. So if you're so confident, you must have some sort of agreement with Greg Sankey, which means that Greg Sankey must have some agreement with the SEC coaches who seem to rule that conference. Because we're not going to 5-11. We're not going to 5-11 unless the SEC goes to 9 conference games. Why is that? Because you are, again, you are giving the SEC a 400-yard advantage in a 1.5-mile furlong race around the track. And you're putting more weights on your horse, even though all your jockeys weigh the same. That's what you're doing. Brett Yormark is doubling down, and he's saying he's confident they'll get to a 5-11. Wow. I cannot wait for the Big Ten Media Days where Silent Tony has to come out and say this is a bunch of bollocks. Brett Yormark, and a small group of reporters after his address, re-emphasized that the Memorandum of Understanding signed by the CFP leaders last year does not necessarily grant sole and exclusive power to the Big Ten and the SEC over the future format. Look, I'm gonna put my ugly face in front of the camera. Listen. If that's the case, then the reporters have done a horrible job reporting what is actually in that MOU. But beyond that, if the Big 12 and the ACC and the SEC have the power to move this to a 5+11 without Big Ten's acquiescing, with the SEC staying at 8 conference games, we go from a PATC DEFCON 2 to a PATC DEFCON 1. It's simple as that. We will go to a DEFCON 1. And Tony Petitti's got to tell Sankey no more advisory meetings. Absolutely worthless. We have our governance, 65%, everybody locking arms. That's a different bucket. The bucket on the college football playoffs, the LLC, that supposedly is run by the SEC and the Big Ten, and they were having these advisory groups. Petitti should tell Sankey, yeah, we're good. We don't need to talk. And then he should hit the press. He should press the DEFCON 1 button in his office in Rosemont, Illinois. Because all that this means is the Southeastern Conference is drinking everybody's milkshake. And why people do not understand that, why they keep defending this, is unbelievable. Compromise, Greg. There is no compromise with the Southeastern Conference. They're getting everything they want. Don't you understand that? Yormark. I don't think anybody understands it. It's remarkable. Again, we'll get to it in a moment. Let me see where I stopped off at. Okay. Now, Yormark adds he's doubling down today on 5-11. Said it might not be the best model for the Big 12 today after a year where only one team was selected, but the league's long-term outlook makes it the best plan. Well, here's the deal. It's not the best model for the Big 12 today. But that doesn't seem to bother the Big 12. So they have some long-term plan. Have a long-term plan. So we're going to support the SEC and the ACC, who I won't go there right now. But the league's long-term outlook. Well, let's take a look at the long-term outlook. Is Yormark talking about a possible poaching of the ACC because the ACC implodes? Okay, maybe that's what he's talking about. Maybe he wants a 5+11 because the Big 12 institutions are going to be in a better position to get more of those bids once the ACC implodes. It's somewhat logical. Somewhat logical. But here's the deal. There ain't going to be no ACC implosion. There ain't going to be no ACC implosion, or the likelihood drops significantly if this playoff format stays at 12 teams. If the Big 12 wants an ACC implosion, you're going to need the Big 10. And take it another different way. If you got a 16-team playoffs with automatic qualifiers and the ACC implodes, the Big 12 is going to get more automatic qualifiers. But we're not... The chance of expansion drops significantly if the playoffs stay at 12 teams until 2031. But Yormark says it might not be the best model for the Big 12 today. Well, it isn't. It's just, the data shows it. I don't know what's going to look. The data shows that if the SEC stays at 8 conference games and we go to 5+11, the Big 12 is going to average less than 2 bids a season. That's what the data shows. Yormark has it. Everybody has it. So, you know, everybody wants, so Big 12 country, you want to change the perception of your conference. You know how you do that? You win playoff games. You get to the national championship. You win once in a while, but you win playoff games. To win playoff games, it is best to have more opportunity to win those playoff games. But the SEC is going to take your opportunities. So is the Big Ten. BYU's quarterback Jake Raslaff remains officially listed on the Cougars' 2025 roster. Coach Kalani Sitake asked about Raslaff. We love Jake Raslaff. It would be inappropriate for me to make a statement on his behalf. I'm going to give him the opportunity to do that. So we don't know what's going on. He remains on the Cougars roster. Maybe he'll take the suspension. Maybe he'll stay with BYU. Who knows? But he's not in the port. He's not, he's still on the roster. I don't know where it's going. And again, Iowa State, we did an Iowa State spotlight today. Matt Campbell, Rocco Beck has evolved into one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I know what he's proven the last 2 years. He's the reason our football program has clawed back to where it is. Okay. I gotta talk a little bit more about this. We are gonna get to your phone calls. You can blast me. You can blast me. Okay? You can say, Greg, you are incredibly wrong. But I gotta say a little bit more because I haven't really gotten to the most important part of the playoff model. Ryan Thomas, 5+7 isn't happening. It's 4-4-2-2-1-1-1 or 5+7. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan Thomas. You meant 5+11 isn't happening. Well, according to Yormark, he said he's confident it is. He said it today. Brickbat, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. Wow, thank you so very much for your incredible generosity. Let me see if I can still figure out who I can't. For those who got a gift membership from Mr. Brickbat, please say thank you when you get an opportunity to Brickbat. All of you who were fortunate to get a membership, all of you are officially knighted. Cloak and Dagger, congratulations to being members of this Rebel Outpost YouTube channel. As we are about to lose 200 to 250 subscribers today, thank you for becoming members. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Brickbat. Thank you so very much. Lewis Oliver, Greg, step back and you see why this is good for the Big 12 and ACC. We're just going to have to agree to disagree. I don't see it. I have read that Bill Connelly article at least 10 times. The data is not there. It isn't. The Big 12 is going to lose opportunities. And and when you're tweaking the metrics, how are you tweaking it? The SEC was dissatisfied last year in a down year. They wanted more of the 12. They wanted more of the 7 at-large bids. They believe they should have had more. And here is, I respect Lewis' opinion. I respect everybody's opinion. We're just going to have to agree. I've taken that step back. Remember, I did not want the automatic qualifiers at all. And then I came to the point where I'll take the auto bid model if it can be adjusted. And I'm still holding that position. But the 5+11 with the SEC at 8 conference games, it is terrible. The number one reason why it's terrible for college football, everybody says, Greg, look what's Greg, you got to look at what's best for college football. The 5+11 model does not enrich the regular season. It does not. It does not encourage tougher non-conference games. It does not encourage to bite at the apples. The AQ model, you have 2 bites at the apple. If you have a bad non-conference loss, or you lost to a very good team, you challenge yourself. You still have the conference record to get into a play-in game to get a AQ bid. With the 5+11, those big-time non-conference games are going to dwindle even more. It's the truth. Everybody's going to dumb their way down. Everyone's going to avoid losses. That's why the SEC has 8 conference games. The Big 12 has 9. The Big 12 is already mathematically carrying a 50-pound weight on their backs. Because mathematically, you're going to suffer more losses in your conference. To enlarge the at-large bids from 7 to 11 without asking the Southeastern Conference, not asking, without having them do anything is, in my strongly held opinion, is preposterous. You're giving the Southeastern Conference, the most powerful, richest conference in the nation, everything they could possibly want. And when Brett Yormark talks about his belief in the committee and they're going to do an audit and they're going to modernize the data, it's all going the Southeastern Conference way. They're not tweaking that for the benefit of the Big 12. They're tweaking that to the benefit of the Southeastern Conference. Strength of schedule, strength of schedule, strength of schedule. It's already baked in. And they want to have that oven on about 3 hours longer at 4:25. That's what the Southeastern Conference is doing. And the AQ model does enrich the regular season. It does. you build up you can now play a big non-conference schedule. Because if you win those games, now you got a shot at those 3 at-large bids. If you lose them, you still got that conference race. If you are a Tennessee, you are the Volunteers, and you are 9-1, or let's say 8-1. Well, you're 8-1, 9-1. In the AQ model, you're still going to have to. You can't, if you lose another game, then you lose your play-in game. You're not going to make it in. Probably. But with 8 conference games, 5 plus 11, a Tennessee that's 8-1, 9-1, got the game against Nashville, Vanderbilt. Look, every game is more meaningful for more teams later on in the schedule. It's why the NFL has the regular season is going to be devalued at 5 plus 11. The model brings the value up. And when you have more viewership, when you have more tickets sell, when more teams are in the race later in the season, you're going to get more viewership, and then you're going to get a better media contract. The Big 12, Brett Yormark, when you signed that last media contract, and it was a stroke of brilliance, you went for the exposure. This time you got to go for the money. To have a 5 plus 11, if you are a Big 12 school, forget about the Big 12. What if you're an ACC school? What if you're Duke? What if you lose to Illinois? Now, if you lose one ACC game, you're probably out. You're probably out of the college football playoffs. But in an AQ model, if you lose to Illinois early in the season, you still got that conference race. You can still get in the play-in game, the conference championship game. I think the 4-4-2-2 devalues regular season games because there's more room for error. Well, okay, sure. And there's more room for error in the NFL. And look at the value of the regular season in the NFL. When you have more teams have a chance later in the season, of course it increases it increases the value of the regular season. Why do you think the Southeastern Conference is for a 5 plus 11 more than the 4-4-2-2-1-3? Do you know why the Southeastern Conference is for the 5 plus 11? Because they know they're going to get more bids. They're going to get more bids that way than the 4-4-2-2-1-3. They know it. They absolutely know it. I would love to adjust the model. I would like to have it a different model. But an AQ model is the way to go. I'm completely convinced by it. And I'm also convinced that the Big 12 is the one conference, because of the 9 conference games, because they don't have the strength of schedule that the SEC and the Big 10 are going to have. The Big 10, and the data shows it, the Big 10 is screwing themselves on this. What would that model be, Greg? If I was the Big Ten, I would look the Southeastern Conference straight in the eye. Straight in the eye. Hey, Tony Petitti, call me. I know I'm person non grata in the Big Ten. Call me. Go out in the open, Tony Petitti. This is what I would do. Tony Petitti, go out in the open. Say, you know what? We are willing to compromise with the Big 12 and the ACC. We're willing to go 4-4, 3-3, 1-1. That means the SEC cannot have more than 4 teams in the playoffs. That means the Big Ten cannot have more than 4 teams in the playoffs. 4-4, 3-3, 1-1. Let's do it, SEC. Come on. Come on. Let's have these play-in games. Let's have the play-in games for the Big 12 for the ACC. There's one at-large bid, Notre Dame. We can write it in there, Notre Dame. We can write it in there. If you're UConn, finish in the top 16, you can be in the playoffs. Who's ever rated higher, and if you're in the top 16, you are the at-large bid. Let's go. More teams are involved later in the season. Here's one more point I want to make. No, I'm not jilted, serial killer. This makes no sense in my strongly held opinion. The Big 12 is screwing the Big 12. Here's another thing. We talk about this money, right? Everybody needs money, blah, blah, blah. People talk about how the Big 12 Mafia show, they do a great job. They have fun with it. They're talking about the suckers and the milkers, or the cows and the milkers. That there are some schools in the Big Ten and the SEC that they suck on the teeth of the top brands in the Big Ten and the SEC, right? A lot of people in the comments section for the last 3 years have said, Greg. Don't you know that Michigan should get some of that Rutgers money? Don't you know, Greg, that Ohio State should get some of that Minnesota money? And I've been saying, look, it might happen. It might happen in the next media rights agreement, right? We've been having this conversation back and forth. People are very upset that Minnesota makes Big Ten money. Very upset, right? We are taking advantage of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Northwestern is taking advantage of the Penn State Nittany Lions, right? Did this sound familiar to you all? Okay. Well, here's the deal. We go to 5+11, or we stay at 5+7. We do this. We don't have play-in games. We don't have, the Big Ten don't have that crossover game with the SEC or whatever. But we don't have those play-in games. That's also costing the Buckeyes, the Wolverines, the Bamas, the Georgias, everybody money. It's even costing the Big 12 and the ACC money. And I think it's costing you viewership. I think it's because, in my opinion, the AQ model is so much more advanced than the 5+11. But what it's going to... So if this happens, if this 5+11 happens, and you all Einsteins are all happy with it, congratulations. But don't ever complain about certain teams, programs taking money from the Buckeyes, because you guys just took more money from the Buckeyes, the Michigan, the Bamas. You also took money from yourselves. This 5+11 does not raise the interest. So many teams will still get knocked out early in the season. The AQ model, more big non-conference games. The AQ model, more teams are in the hunt later in the season. The AQ model, you as a fan know exactly what your team needs to do to get to a play-in game. The 5+11, you know what we're going to have? Propaganda, 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 metrics, 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 and they're going to favor the SEC even more than they've had in the past. Now, with that, I'm going to open up the phone lines. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. And I hope and I pray that the phone lines work. I hope the phone lines work.
Call from
Lewis.
Lewis is on. Lewis, thanks for calling, sir. I appreciate it. I hope everybody can hear you. Can everybody hear Lewis? Lewis, talk.
I haven't said anything yet, Greg.
Okay, now can people hear Lewis? I hope they can hear you. I've been having problems. Yes, they can.
Can you
Lewis,
hear me?
go
Okay,
ahead, let
very
it rip,
good.
sir.
Well, Greg,
Yes, sir.
this all has to do with relative power. 6 months ago, it looked like the SEC and the Big Ten were in position. Each have non-conference games, a scheduling agreement between themselves, have 8 of the 16 bids among themselves, and permanently leave the Big 12 and the ACC in a position where they could never catch up. And also, we never have any home games with SEC and Big Ten teams going to the ACC and going to the Big 12. So this rift that has occurred,
Yes, sir.
occurred for a very simple it's a very simple reason.
Yes, sir.
The SEC has one TV partner, ESPN. They already have on championship weekend the ACC at night, the Big 12 at noon, the SEC in the middle. They don't need additional games. And the Big Ten does, because the Big Ten has 3 network partners, all of whom want to have a big game on championship weekend. Well, if the Big Ten gets their way on this and they have play-in games, one on Fox, one on NBC, one on CBS, what does that do to the ratings for the Big 12 championship game? It destroys them. It certainly eats into them. Right now, the Big 12 championship game owns that noon slot for itself, and it usually can get a decent rating. And so that 4-4-2 model would be a disaster. On top of that, in the closing weeks of the regular season, the Big Ten, the SEC already gets pretty good ratings anyway. The Big Ten, not so much. But the Big Ten games deeper down the lineup, people playing for these playing games, that's going to eat into Big 12 viewership as well. So if you look beyond just the metrics of who gets into the playoff and look at championship weekend, ratings down the stretch, there are a lot of reasons why it makes sense for the ACC and the Big 12 to be at this position, in addition to just driving a wedge between the two power conferences. So I believe it's a brilliant move, and Yormark knows what he's doing. And on top of that, remember last year the ACC got 2 teams into the playoff? They chose SMU, did the committee over, and they chose SMU over an SEC team. So Yormark isn't completely out to lunch with that comment about the selection process. SMU did not belong in the playoff. They got crushed, but they were there. And also, the hope, at least I would think, is the Big 12 would go back to 8 games, and then that would force the Big 10 to have to go to 8 games. If not now, eventually. Maybe they can't do it in this current TV contract, but they might be able to eventually do that. That's a long-term play. And again, 8 conference games opens up more opportunities for inter-conference games, and that's what the Big 12 needs. They've got to get on the playing field with the SEC and the Big 10. They can't be shut out. And 6 months ago, it was looking like those conferences were shut out. I made plans to go to Duke to see the Duke-Illinois game. several months ago because I felt like we may never see another Big Ten team other than maybe Northwestern at some point ever come to Durham again for a game. That's the way it was going. This model and this dynamic changes some of the stranglehold the two conferences are going to have over everybody else. And so that's exactly the right play. And if Yormark can pull it off, and so can Jim Phillips, then it's a good play. So it makes a lot of sense. And really, it's just the Big Ten has this salacious need to satisfy its TV partners that the SEC does not have with these play-in games on their three broadcast partners. But again, that would just destroy interest. And if the Big 12 has two bids, well, then it minimizes the value or the importance of the conference championship game because both teams are already going to the playoffs. You don't have that tension of one team getting in. Now, if the Big 12 got three bids, well, then yes, that helps. But no one's talking about the Big 12 and the ACC getting three. They're talking about two. The 4-4-2-2 model really, yes, it might get more teams in the playoff on average, but the money is already established how the money's going to be divided. It's already baked. Whether they get two teams or one team, I believe everyone's getting the same amount of money. So Yormark knows what he's doing, and for a lot of reasons I've explained on this call, and perhaps even with some others, it makes perfect sense to me as a fan of the ACC and of a Big 12 school. And also, I like Georgia, and I think this is good for the SEC as well. I don't think the Big Ten deserves four teams every year. They may not always have that. Indiana, were they really that good? Notre Dame beat them pretty badly. They would have been one of the four. The SEC is always going to have teams that are going to be in there. So it makes sense for all three. It just doesn't make sense for the Big Ten. And I hope it goes this way. If nothing else, it's brilliant to at least try to drive a wedge between the top two conferences being in a position to just shut everybody else out, because that would be bad for college football. Thank you, Greg.
Beautiful, Lewis. I think a lot of people agree with Lewis. A lot of people agree with Lewis. Legendary caller. Lewis is provoking some new views.
All from
Replica.
Replica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Greg. I hope you're doing well. And
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good. My soccer team, Chelsea, just made it to the final of the Club World Cup.
All right. Congratulations.
Yep, so everything's good. But I have to be honest, Greg, on this particular subject. This one only. Your arguments you're getting worse and worse. I have to be honest. There's no to AQs. And here's, before I get into my spiel, I just want to say we got to stop emphasizing like novelty concepts. For example, the idea that they're going to come up with an AQ model that's adjustable, let's just stop talking about that, because we know that's not going to happen. It's not. If we go to an AQ model, this is permanent. There's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. The second concept that I wanted to stop placing so much emphasis on is the value of the regular season. We cannot structure college football like the NFL in an attempt to maximize the value of the regular season, because all 32 of those teams play on a level playing field. And they have no problem playing on a level playing field because of the benefits that they get in return. The SEC and the Big Ten will never willingly choose to play on a level playing field with the rest of college football. So the whole concept of structuring the playoff system to mimic the NFL, it's already failed at the door, because you're not even operating as equals. And there's never any opportunity for that to happen unless they choose to do it. Now, I've already been clear on this. The SEC should play 9 games, but I don't necessarily have a problem if they choose not to, because this all should have been negotiated last year when they formed that advisory group. If they were so adamant, and I don't know if you can go back and pull up my super chat, but why did they not negotiate this last year when they had the opportunity before the CFP contract was signed? The reason why they didn't is because the Big Ten had no problem with the SEC thoroughbreds getting a 50-meter head start because they thought they were getting one too. And now that we got new developments and it's coming out they may only have a 40-meter head start or a 35-meter head start, we want to throw everything out the window and go to this AQ model that clearly only benefits those two conferences. Because as much as we want to talk about Bill Connolly's mythical model, that really doesn't matter because all these conferences are in year 2 of their iterations. There's not even enough past data to even create a realistic model because we don't know how the dynamics in those conferences are going to change with these new members. And that's for all 4 of them, not just SEC and the Big Ten. So already, like, his model is content. It's great talking points for media days, but it's not a concept based in reality. Like, football is played on a field, not in the stipulation. And it's not the other conference's responsibility to create more content and more value for the Big Ten's media partners, because that's what's really driving all this. NBC and CBS massively overpaid for the Big Ten's media rights, particularly CBS. NBC is doing great with their content. They can afford to overpay. They overpaid for the Premier League 10 years ago. It turned out to be a great investment. So they can afford to take those risks. But CBS is in a bind because they can't get the content they want, and it's just not the other conference responsibilities to solve other people's problems. Like, it doesn't benefit the Big 12 to have the SEC and the Big 10 playing each other every year, shutting out their schools from playing each other on the schedules. It doesn't help their strength of schedule. It doesn't help their revenue. It doesn't help with viewership. It doesn't help them. It helps the Big 10, the SEC, and in particular the Big 10. So, I mean, it sucks. I wish the SEC was willing to play on an even playing field, but again, this is all stuff that should have been negotiated last year. They had a chance. They made a gamble. They didn't care about the political costs, and it's starting to backfire. That's something they have to deal with. But this fear mongering that the Big 12 is going to get screwed, they're going to get screwed either way. Neither one of these formats are particularly good for them. It's not. You're choosing a lesser two evils, but it was the Big Ten that put them in that position. And when you are fighting for your survival, you ever heard the concept of fight or flight?
Yes, sir.
People make decisions that may not be rational because they're trying to survive. So, yes, this has drawbacks. It could hurt them. The SEC could get more teams in because of this, but if that's the price to pay to make sure that they're not in lockstep, that they can't walk away from the rest of the sport in 6 years, that's a price he's willing to pay. It's a small price, to be honest. Because once you go to this scheduling agreement, you're calling on the ADs from the ACC and the Big 12 to drop games. That's lost revenue. That's lost viewership. That's a gap in the strength of schedule. How does that benefit them?
Go on, sir.
There's no benefit to it. If you're gonna go down swinging with the best, most level playing field you can leverage. And if that ends up being the HQ model, then so be it. But you don't just lay there and accept it. You're committing suicide to your program at that point. Like, you think that 5-star kid that just committed to Tech last week, you think he's going there if they only have half the AQ spots of the Texas? No chance. Because the money is there. It's not money he's going there. He's going there for the opportunity. He can get that money at A&M. He can get it at Texas. He can get it at LSU, Alabama. Ohio State was in his top 3. You think Ryder Lyons is going to BYU if he has to go on a mission, sit out a whole year, and then he only has half the opportunity as Oregon? No. I've yet to see a convincing argument for this AQ model. It really just seems like a ploy to create more value for the media partners, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I wish people in the big, not you, but Tony Batiti, Brett Bielema, like people who are actually affiliated with the Big Ten. I wish they just come out and just be honest about it. It'd be a lot more digestible if people just told the truth. And just be honest that, hey, we should have been harder on the SEC last year in those negotiations. We should have demanded more. But no, we took our gamble. We paid the political cost, and it's not quite working out the way we wanted to. But that's not the rest of the conference's fault.
All righty, sir. Beautiful call. You're getting a lot of support in the chat room.
Yeah, well, it's formal football season, so we can put these debates aside and have real conversations. And last thing I'll say, Paul Feinbaum, you're a nincompoop for saying Arch Manning, the greatest quarterback since Tim Tebow.
No, well, me and Paul Feinbaum, we're riding the same train. We're gonna
listen. I've seen Cam Newton, Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Joe Burrow. Let's see them finish a game, a full 4 quarters before we start comparing them to Tebow.
All righty, man. I appreciate the call, sir.
All right, we're going.
You got it. Thanks for the views, man.
Call from
Bill Canes, 1993.
Can you hold on for just 1 second, sir?
Sure.
Couple great calls, Lewis in replica. I have one huge, strong disagreement with Lewis replica and pretty much everybody in the chat room. It's a disagreement. It's a gentleman's disagreement, but it's a massive disagreement. How I view the current Big Ten media deal is completely different than pretty much every one of you. You all think that these CBS and NBC, everyone's suffering on this. They're making massive amount of money. Every time the Big Ten goes in their media rights negotiation, this is talked about. Like the Big Ten, oh boy, they're going to have a truck. No! They're making massive amount of money for the national advertisers. You guys, you're way off beat on this. Yes, the Big Ten wants to have more value for the regular season. Everybody should be wanting that, by the way. But yeah, the NBC would like to have better games. And they're making the adjustments on that. But overall, I mean, look at the Big Ten Network, for God's sakes. The Big Ten Network is the only conference network that has a Nielsen rating. And the reason why the Big Ten wanted that, because they knew they were having so many eyeballs on it. And now they have a higher ad rate. Guys, it ain't just about the viewership number. It's about the demographics. The Big Ten demographics is sensational for them, for those who want, for the national advertisers that want to have their products and services bought. That's, guys, yes, the Big Ten wants more value in the regular season. Everybody should want that. Obviously, it doesn't sound like many of you do. That is the biggest myth out there. Like, the Big Ten media partners are so upset. They're not. They make adjustments just like everyone else does. The Big Ten media contract is going to be massive again. Yes, it is. You want to create more money, more value for the regular season. No question about it. That's one of the high motivations that they're doing this. And again, I'll shut up after I say this. But once again, we're doing another live show on this. And nobody in Big 12 country, nobody in ACC country, not a one of you ever, I don't know, man. I don't know what Kool-Aid Sankey has been giving you all, but they're about to drink your milkshake and none of you care. That is what is really, it's just, it blows my mind. Honestly, great calls, great views, great points. I get it, but I don't agree with the Big Ten media thing is so bad. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. That's the biggest gulf between me and you guys when we're talking about this. But anyways, caller, go ahead. The floor is yours.
How's it going, Greg?
Doing good. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Beautiful.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to back up my brothers up there in Tallahassee, which makes me sick to do, but I feel like a lot of people seem to forget a few years ago when an undefeated Florida State team was locked out of the playoffs by a committee that, is supposed to look at all these metrics, and they found every reason not to go ahead and put through a team that, by all means, had done everything on the field possible and still was locked out.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know where this notion comes that the SEC and all of its, benevolence is now all of a sudden, if you go and increase those auto qualifier spots, is going to give the Big 12 out the kindness of its heart 2 or 3 spots because there's more spots. I don't see that at all.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty involved in recruiting down here, and I can tell you right now that as a Miami Hurricanes fan, playoff access is definitely a big deal. There's a lot of recruits that won't come to Miami because they see the SEC as having a stranglehold on the sport. They see that, if you're not in the SEC, you can't get to the NFL and develop because of the talent gap that's there. There's a perception issue. And so I see, especially, in Miami, there was talk last year trying to screw SMU out of a playoff spot, even though they were in the ACC title game, trying to say, hey, if Miami had made it in there and lost a tight game to Clemson, they shouldn't be in there because they had lost one game to Georgia Tech. So I don't know why they think that a committee, when they've shown you time and time again that they're, are going to favor the 2 biggest conferences in the sport. And again, I don't necessarily know that it's an incorrect thing to do, but it's just the reality. Like, why all of a sudden are the Big Ten and the ACC, or the Big 12 and the ACC going to be on an even playing field when a committee that has always shown you their bias is now all of a sudden with more spots going to be unbiased?
They're going to modernize the data. What does that even mean?
Right, but every data is put out by ESPN, who has a benefit to go and support the SEC. That makes no sense. Like, you're going to have College Game Day go out there and talk about how criminal it is that a 1-loss ACC team is ahead of a 2 or 3-loss SEC team because look at all the teams they play. Everything is fabricated by the same system, and it's just going to be, like you said, a propaganda campaign.
It's just going to be a propaganda, and people want more of it. They want to go from 7 to 11. They want the metrics tweaked so the SEC can have more fit. It's going to be more in favor just so the Big Ten, the media, I don't know. I don't understand. I still today, I don't understand. You look at last season. Now, I know it's just one season. But come on, guys. The SEC had a down year. Doesn't the ACC and the Big 12 agree with that? And the SEC still thought that Alabama should have went in. In a 16-team playoff last year, the SEC would have scooped up all the other spots. And that is before you tweak the metrics in their favor. What are you at? Let me ask the ACC and Big 12 people in the chat. What are you asking from the SEC? What are you asking for? You're asking for nothing. You're giving them your milkshake. Why can't you see it? What's going on? That's what I don't understand. What is going on? Why are you doing this? Bill Conley, who works for the evil ESPN, he's going, what is going on? What is Yormark doing? It's... Go ahead, sir. I'm going to shut up. Go ahead.
No,
sir.
That's okay. The last thing I will say is it's not just Bill Connolly. You look at all the preseason rankings. I mean, you have teams in the SEC that probably won't even finish in the top 5 or 6 that are ranked ahead of the Big 12 champion. They're already showing their hand. The only reason Sankey didn't put this model up to begin with, or a full 16-team, everybody's automatic bid, is because he never thought he'd get it through. he's licking his chops that now all of a sudden it looks like he could get exactly what he wanted all along. He's said it publicly, he'd rather there be no AQs. Let it all be mashed out on the field so that some committee that gets back there that he could play media leverage against, he can go and make sure the SEC gets 8, 9, 10 teams in there instead of being locked in at 3 or 4 with maybe a chance at one more spot. Like, you're handing the SEC over the keys of the kingdom. And it's like, don't look back at the scorpion when it stings you when you're trying to bring it across the river and say, well,
exactly.
It was a scorpion. What did you expect me to do?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The scorpion tells the turtle, whatever. What do you expect? I'm a scorpion. I mean, this is where we're at here. And no, I don't think this is some fifth dimensional play. Like, people are happy, and I get it. I mean, we got great callers, very smart people. But this whole leverage play, they get a wedge in the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, how long is that going to last? Okay, so you got a wedge in there. I mean, if anything, it's going to make the Big Ten, God, I don't want to talk about it on this live show, but we're this to make for something to get Tony Petitti out in public. And again, I think his interview was smashing with Joe Klatt. Not because of style, because of substance. If you go watch that interview, I'm not seeing Greg Sankey and Brett Yormark and Phillips have these. All they say is, I believe in us. This is what's fair. This is we're going to change the metrics. It's all, none of it increases the regular season value. It increases the propaganda. And it increases SEC bids. It's just going to happen. And I guess as long as people can say this is fair, I guess that's what is more important to them.
And to your point, if you don't like games like Miami and Florida playing anymore, then this is the model for you, because Florida will continue to play Wofford in Week 9 leading up to Georgia instead of going down and playing a tough out-of-conference opponent.
Yeah.
Why would they take a loss there when they don't need to? They've got guaranteed slots because they're an SEC team. It's a built-in bias.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The 5+11 non-conference games. Why in the hell would USC play Notre Dame? Why would they
Oregon
do that?
and Oregon State, the backyard brawl, all these out-of-conference rivalries that used to be in conference, they're all gone.
It doesn't make any sense. You avoid the losses. That's all that we're going to do more of that. It really, this 5+11 is junk. It's really junk. It does not, and when I first listened to Josh Pate, I was like, but then he kept talking, and I kept listening. I go, yeah, well, that made sense. He had a great Tennessee example. Holy smokes. And I wish politically we could do the 3-3-3 or whatever. Maybe they should go to 18 teams and make sure that the Big 12 and the ACC have playing. Go ahead, but do what you need to do. But the AQ model is so much better than more and more at large bids with more and more. All these teams are going to be 10-2 and 9-3, and the SEC is going to bitch that their 9-3 is not over the 10-2, and they're going to be most of the time over the 10-2 ACC. All we're going to do is have these bitch sessions, propaganda sessions, that are going to be bigger and longer.
It's going to be great for ESPN's ratings because they'll have a lot of talking head shows, Get Up, and all these other programs they have. There's also something to talk about. It's an AQ model. They really don't have as much to talk about there because they can't go and talk about, well, what does the committee think about this or that? It's like you said before, it's plain in view. They know, hey, if they win this weekend, they're in. There's no bias. There's no waiting.
Yeah.
And so the last thing I'll say, and I'll let you go because I know there's probably a lot of other people going in. Two things. One, I think if you go to a 5+11, all you're doing is signing the death warrant for the Big 12 and the ACC for those bigger teams that they think are going to turn it around. If you want to bet on yourself, you should go and take the 2 or 3 automatic qualifiers right now. The deal goes for 4 or 5 years, and if you win a few national titles, then you are at a stronger position to leverage and go ahead and move that league and say, hey, Big Ten and ACC, you haven't won a national title as much as you should have. Instead of getting 4, now you should get 2. Right now, the ACC and the Big 12 have put themselves in a position where they have no leverage. So if you're not going to go and take the guaranteed spots and the quote-unquote prove it on the field, okay, well then have Clemson go win 4 or 5 of the next national titles and go ahead and prove it on the field. Then you come from a position of strength. But if Jim Phillips is on board with whatever this deal is, that probably means it's a bad deal for anything else, because nothing he's done as commissioner in the ACC has made the ACC a better place.
Yeah. All right, man.
But I appreciate your show. Take care.
Thank you. Yeah. It was Bill Conley. I don't even have that thing up. Hold on here.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. Let it rip, sir.
Well, I mean, it sounds like we've got a live and active show, and a lot of things are going on. I just want to, I mean, you know my position, but I have an idea that I believe is the grand compromise to all of this, Greg. It's the solution that won't happen because it's too realistic and it makes too much sense. But if it were to happen, I would expect that I should receive the Nobel Prize for this.
Okay.
But I think if we're going to go to a 16-team playoff, then everybody should go down to 8 games and play all the P4, play 3 of the other P4 and 1 of the G5s. At the end of the season, the top 5 conference champions get an automatic bid, period. Plus Notre Dame, if you're in the top 16, you get a bid. Okay, but this is how you award the remaining 10 or 11 bids, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
You award them as follows. You give 2 bids to the conferences that were the participants in the prior year championship game. And then you take the records of all the conferences against each other and the winning percentage, and you figure out some sort of metric or some way to allocate that, the remaining bids against each other. So basically, the remaining at-large playoff bids would be determined based on your conference's success against the other conferences in the non-conference games. So, I mean, if that's what we want to do, that would be fair, but because that makes too much sense, we can't have that, Greg.
Well, there's a lot of different models. But again, when you have an AQ model, you're going to know when the season starts what you got to do to get in the playoffs, right?
Yeah. And I'm saying this. I'm saying this more tongue in cheek, Greg.
I know. Yep.
Look, you know my feeling on this, but I'd also remind people that I think the ACC and Big 12 have publicly said that they supported a 4-3-3-1-1. They publicly have said that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if that's what Petiti offers, then that flips the table on Sankey and pisses off the SEC, which then we have this whole then we have this whole complaint session again. But I mean, I just want to go back and just say, overall, I don't think Yormark is dumb here, and I think right now we're kind of in the middle of posturing and negotiation. Something is going to have to. I mean, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to have to give something to get something here. And I think right now they're just trying to play the cards they have. And I think what we end up at, I don't disagree with you. I think the networks like the certainty that comes from knowing, the opportunities you talked about. I don't think I certainly agree with you there on that, Greg. But I ultimately believe that we're still in the horse trading phase, and people need to kind of chill out here and realize that nothing's final. Not to not to burn your cheese in the pan, because I think that either if they're really going for 5+11, then that tells me the Mouse is going to basically have the Big 12 go down to 8 games, and then the Mouse will have the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 play each other, twice and arrange something that benefits ESPN. I mean, that just tells me, and then that will somehow magically play into ESPN and the committee's, strength of schedule record, rankings, and screw the Big Ten. Yeah, don't never underestimate the Mouse, Greg. Don't underestimate the Mouse. ESPN is always up to something sneaky. So, I mean, I think that something in the background, just because on its face, or as they like to say in Latin, the prima facie look of this, it seems like it's a dumb decision by Yormark. And I just don't think that these people are that dumb. There's got to be something more in the background. There's got to be some horse trading that's going on. There's got to be something that's being done to kind of appease people to up their overall television value and keep them relevant. So, I mean, I know we like to all get into the arguments in the chat here, but I would just say that, it's fun to speculate, but I think that there may be more behind the scenes that we're not aware of, and if there isn't, then we can totally rip them apart. I mean, obviously, I used to think these commissioners were stupid, but I think after going through Greg Kliakoff, Greg Kliakoff and Larry Scott all cast doubt in their minds about the intelligence of college commissioners, and certainly Jim Phillips is adding to that. So I understand the uncertainty and the angst of believing college conference commissioners are smart. I understand with the examples of those three recently fresh in our mind, but I think something more is going behind the scenes, Greg. As they would say, there's something happening here. What it is, it ain't exactly clear, but there's a man with a badger over there telling me I got to beware. So I mean, we just have to see how it rides out. But I'll shut up, Greg.
Okay.
Thank you for always as you do the show. I would just say, I bet you something more is going on behind. I don't know what it is, but my gut tells me that something more is going on behind the scenes as far as horse training and negotiation, and it's going to be pretty interesting how it plays out. Take care, my friend.
You got it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ryan Thomas. Replica of the Big Ten was adamant about the SEC playing 9 conference games. They could have negotiated last year. Why start complaining now? Replica, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for your generosity. I know you brought the super chat was a while ago. I apologize, Replica. I know you called as well. The Big Ten did negotiate with the SEC. They did negotiate. They were in those advisory meetings. They thought they were going to get a deal done. Remember? In principle, I mean, the athletic directors agreed. They wanted the playing games. They wanted that 9th conference game. They wanted the crossover game with all this was being negotiated. And then suddenly, the SEC gets down to Destin, Florida for their spring meetings, and everything goes pear-shaped. Everything goes pear-shaped. So we were negotiating. It didn't work out.
Call from
Movie Time Blues.
Movie Time Blues, can you hold on for just 1 second, please?
Sure.
I do appreciate it. Thank you, Replica, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Bill G, once again, 5 gifted memberships. Thank you, Bill G. I'm probably too late to find out who you gave them to. I do apologize, Bill G. Bill G, thank you once again for your incredible generosity, day after day, week after week, month after month. All the memberships you have given out. I do apologize for not getting to this earlier. A lot of passion being put out on this show. I'm losing my mind. Thank you, Bill G, for your incredible generosity. For those who were gifted a membership because of Bill G, once again, please say thank you to Bill G, and all of you are officially knighted, cloak, and dagger. Thank you, Bill G. Thank you, Movie Time Blues, for your patience. I appreciate it. Go ahead and let it rip. The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. One of the things that us college football fans have to understand is that politics have a lot to do with the running of college football. Over the previous decades, there have been a sort of consolidation of power within certain groups, and people see this occurring in the daily, fandom, and most of them do not like it. And what you are seeing right now is the expression of anger that's being directed at, what we would call, maybe you could call it elitist or the clique or whatever, some group, some powerful people, because they fear that they're being left behind. And sometimes, somebody will tell them something that will give them hope and say, this is how it should be run instead of what has been run over the past few decades. So what we're seeing is that the folks who are expressing a populist anger, and that's fueling the perception of that they're being stepped upon, and this is their way of fighting back.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Sure.
What about the anger that is gonna happen when the SEC drinks your milkshake? What is it? Why is it so noble for the SEC, who, by the way, were so angry, that populist anger? The SEC was so angry that they only got 3 teams in last year. That Alabama, 9-3 Alabama did not jump over SMU, Indiana. And 9-3 Alabama that lost 24-3 late in the season, Oklahoma, that lost to Vanderbilt. That they were so upset that they want to tweak everything. They want the strength of schedule metrics to be more baked in, which is going to screw the Big 12. What about that anger? I don't get it. What is it? Why? Once again, Movie Time Blues, and this goes out for everybody. What is it that every time I do a live show, that the Southeastern Conference goes unscathed, almost unscathed, among Big 12 and ACC folk? What is it? I don't get it. I mean, you understand, this is feeding. This is all feeding right into what the SEC wants without them giving up anything. Is that going to make the populace happy? Do you have a belief, Movie Time Blues, or anybody else, that Yormark is going to be able to modernize the data and making more, the metrics making more, so we got a true... Just explain it to me, Movie Time Blues. Just explain it to me. Sit me down and explain it to me.
It comes down to the fact that people do not see the Big Ten the same way as they do the SEC.
Okay.
The SEC are in locations where there is much more of that populism that it is expressed in normal politics as of currently. whereas the Big Ten is perceived as elitist. As schools that hang on to the old model of the academic, athletic integrity kind of system. And the same way they view the West Coast as aloof from the rest of the country.
So this is all
they
politics.
See the North.
Wait. This is all politics. Spangler says true. Shakara says it's true. Greg says so. As long as the Southeastern Conference is drinking your milkshake, you're okay. This is. I'm not going to say it. Go ahead, sir. Keep going.
So, they see, it's sort of a reflection of what's going on culturally outside of sports. The college football is very enjoyed by much of the populace. So the expression of what they favor in college sports is also reflected in the culture. So they when they see like a Petiti or a Jim Delaney, they see like an academic, someone who has been in academia all his life, or someone who has been the CEO of a company. They may work at the company, but they hate the job, and they see the CEO as part of the reason why they're not happy. So it's not, sometimes you have to go with the perception rather than the truth to understand why people are expressing it in a certain way.
Okay. All right. So when Florida State in my opinion, got absolutely screwed a couple years ago, I should not have voiced my opinion on it because I'm from up north. I don't quite understand this. And when the Big 12 gets screwed, I don't know. I guess I don't think in these ways. I'm looking at data. The data clearly shows that the Big Ten, Spangler, I'm sorry, but the data shows that if the Big Ten would have gotten more bids in the playoffs if we went to 5+11, and the Big 12 would have gotten less. So I'm the one that's actually supporting the Big 12 in this whole conversation. Wait. So what I'm getting is, and I'm being honest here, to me the argument is it's okay if the Big 12 gets even less bids as long as we can rally around and go against the nerds of the Big Ten. Is that where we're at here? Because the data does not favor the Big 12 support of 5+11. It's not there, and it's not going to be there. And once again, when the Big 12 gets screwed, and they will, once the Big 12 gets screwed, the northern fat guy from Minnesota is going to run to the defense of the Big 12. But I'm not supposed to, I guess, because I'm from northern Minnesota. It just blows my mind. But Movie Time Blues, I thank you for opening this window up to me. I did not know that's what the mindset was, but it is obvious in the chat room because they all agree with you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, politics and college sports run along similar lines. Perception sometimes clashes with reality, and sometimes the truth is often the victim or the first casualty of a a psychological war between several factions. So it's like that old saying: truth is the first casualty of war. And if there is a perception of a war within college sports, that the truth becomes the casualty. So, it's a great show right now. So,
you got
it is amazing to see how people think. But
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It is. Yes.
Hey, Movie Time Blues, I appreciate it. I got more calls coming on in, but I love you, man.
No problem, man.
Love you, man.
All right.
Thanks for the call.
Sure, no problem.
You got it.
Sure. Okay.
Beautiful call. It's why we have a national. It's why we have a national show. CFP Plus. I don't think that's what people are. At least people are saying, Greg, about favoring the SEC over the Big Ten. I don't know. Like I did a live show on the Bill Connelly data, and I'm wondering, did anybody watch? I mean, it's, and that is why Bill Connelly's having such a problem with this. It's like, this is not the model that the Big 12 wants, but yet the fan base favors it in a big majority.
Call from
Larry Andrew.
Larry Andrick, the floor is yours. Let it rip.
Hey, Greg, I've been watching this show, and I think everybody, including you, have a complete wrong idea about what's going on.
You got it, buddy. Explain it.
I don't think it's anything other than most football fans want this to be fair. None of these proposals that the Big Ten or the SEC is putting out is fair, actual fair. Now, I agree that the Big is shafted by this. That's the one thing that is really, I hate that. But so is the Big 12 and the ACC. And the thing it is, I don't know how we go about this without doing something that's really equal and fair, like 3-3-3-3-2-2, or whatever it comes out to. That way you only have two teams that the SC can sleep in there after everybody else has got a couple teams in.
Okay, let's do 3-3-3-3. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Do we all agree? Do you all agree? Let's do it. But guess who's not going to agree with that?
Big Ten or SEC?
No, the SEC most definitely, because they think they think they should get 7, and they're going to get 7 if you give them the 5 plus 11. God.
I believe every word you're saying, but I think the whole thing, the whole fight is about fairness.
Yes, sir.
And I think the biggest thing is that Big Ten or the Big 12 and the ACC gave up their voting rights the last time because the SEC and the Big Ten scared the heck out of them. I think that was the worst thing ever happened to college football. And I'm not sure that it's ever going to get back the way it is. And I'm 78, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to live long enough to see how the end up being a 2-conference Super League or a 24, 48 team Super League or whatever.
Well, I'm 57, and I got a less of a chance than you have, sir. Because if I have a couple more of these live shows, I ain't seeing the 2025 football season. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, I know. But I really do believe that the biggest thing that fans around the world want, around the United States anyway, want is a fair football playoff system. I don't care if it's, if any conference, and you know what really makes it worse than anything else?
Yes.
I don't think there's over 8 teams, two from you take 2 from all the 4 conferences, and let them play off, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to be one of the champions win. It's going to be that no matter how many teams you put in there.
Mm-hmm.
The same, probably 8 teams will be up front, will be the winners.
Yeah. Now, Ohio State came in 4th place in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I know.
And they won the national championship.
Yeah, but they got I love Ohio State. They're not my favorite team, as you know.
I can't stand them.
But my son, that's who he follows. And most of my relatives that live in Columbus follow him.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, they got super lucky on selection to playoff selections that last year.
Okay.
That, it just, I don't know. They're good. They were a good team, but they shouldn't have been.
They had to
there.
play Oregon in the quarterfinals. I'm not sure or the semi. I'm not sure if that was lucky.
No.
But anyways.
No.
What I'm saying.
But anyway, they won it, and that's all that counts, I guess. But I just said that even that.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
You're right. That made my argument go straight downhill.
Don't worry about it. Hey, my argument has a lot of you have poked all these holes on me, so don't worry about it.
But I still think that's what everybody wants is a fair deal.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they're arguing so hard about this 4-2-2.
Yeah.
It's not that they want the 5-11. They don't want the 5-7. They don't want the 4-4-2. They just want a fair shot.
Yeah.
If it's all equal and everybody played the same number of games, then that would be great. I got one other solution for the SEC. If the college football playoffs say you have to play 10 Division I games a year, whether it's 9 conference games or 8, you still have to play 10 Division I's in order to get in the playoffs, or you lose. You automatically take 1 loss. That would straighten that up. Definitely wouldn't be choosing to play Milford High School with the last game of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, Greg, I just had to get my 2 cents worth in, which isn't much, but thank you for listening. Great show, buddy.
Beautiful
I'll catch
call.
you later.
Thank you, sir. Love you, man.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
You know what we got to do? We got to expand the playoffs. 16 is not enough. Let me get to that point in a second here.
Call from
Wild Ute.
Wild Ute, hold on for a second. By the way, Wild Ute might be the only person the second person who might have some agreement with me. We're going to have to expand the playoffs. We're going to have to go to 20. I don't know what the number is, but we're going to have to get it to whatever we need to get to. Whatever we need to get to for the Big 12 to have 3 auto bids or 4 auto bids, and the same with the ACC. And to get the SEC on board, they get a couple more, whatever. We're going to have more teams. The reason is because another great value for playing games, not just the money, but because these conferences are so big, there's always going to be imbalanced schedules. So don't you want, like in Indiana, to have to play at least, whoever has an imbalanced schedule that favors them during the season, don't you want them to play in a playing game to make sure that they're legit to win that game? And if a team has big non-conference wins, they can survive a play-in loss because they're going to get one of the at-large bids. Again, the answer is even a larger playoffs and have more auto bids for the Big 12 and the ACC, so you can all get a grip on the reason why the auto bids infuse value into the regular season, into as a fan, so you can see your pathway to the playoffs instead of relying on propaganda metrics that's going to favor the Southeastern Conference. Wow, Jute, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling.
This is one of your best shows ever, Greg.
Thanks, sir.
Really is. And I love the perspective on both sides of this.
Yeah.
Because they're valid points both ways. I am probably lone outside of Nathan Brown and I are big supporters of the 4-4-2-2 model. Obviously, a 4-4-3-3 is even better, or a 4-4-3-2 if that were ever an option. Those are the models that I would prefer, but definitely 4-4-2-2 over 5-11. And I really enjoyed the last caller actually calling in and talking about fairness, because I think that he's nailed on that. Fairness. Here's my thinking, though. I think that if you look at the selection committee, and we're talking about fairness, what seems very unfair to me is giving them access to determine 11 playoff spots per year. And if we look back at history, as one of the callers called in, the Miami guy, great call, Florida State in 2023 got screwed by the selection committee. 2023. 2024, BYU wasn't even consideration for playoff spots despite beating SMU. Not even a consideration, not even discussed. It wouldn't even got in a 16-team format. Not even in the discussion. So there's 2 years in a row of evidence that we don't have, that we can't trust the College Football Playoff Committee. Then further onto that, looking at all the preseason projections, Brett McMurphy, everybody else, they have one Big 12 school in the playoffs. Nobody's saying there are two Big 12 schools going to make the 12-team playoff this year. This is going to be more of the same. Already been mentioned, ESPN has serious bias to put SEC schools in because it protects their investment in the SEC. Duh, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anyone can figure that out. And so the pressure and the bias is going to be on the playoff committee to make SEC selections over someone like the ACC or the Big 12 that don't have as much of a stake. You do all of this and look at all this evidence and say, do we really, really want to determine 11 spots for Big 12 fans? Do we really want that to happen? Do we really think that's going to go our way? Because in a 4-4-2-2-1-3 model, there's 3 playoff spots that are up for selection, right, by the committee. 3 instead of 11. So Big 12 teams could still make it theoretically in that. You can get 3 Big 12 teams in possibly,
Yep.
but the baseline, bottom line, worst case scenario is get 2.
Yep.
And in the 5-11 world, if you ever got 2 in, everyone's going to do backflips.
Yeah.
So the logic doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
It makes zero sense. And it's all about wanting the – okay, so this is where it's going to get a little jarring for a lot of Big 12 fans, okay? I think the issue here is a lack of acceptance, okay?
Yep.
A lack of acceptance on, the current state of college football. It sucks. I'm a Utah fan. Big 12 is not at the same caliber as the SEC and the Big 10. That is why the realignment happened. That's why Texas and OU left. That's why USC left too. It's not on the same playing field. We need to accept that and not just put our heads in the sand and fight back against that and stuff to take worse deals than we should be getting. But I think there needs to be acceptance. Maybe it's over pride. I think there's a lot of pride's going in here, but it's not the best deal. It's not the best for the future of the Big 12. I think that if you could accept where we are as a conference and get 2 automatic guaranteed playoff spots to cause some havoc in the playoffs, to change perceptions, as you mentioned earlier, that is the only way in the future to get on a more even playing field. I can tell you the worst thing in the world, it's the most likely thing in the world, is to go into the 5-11 world and get one playoff team in and lose in the first round every freaking year for a couple of years, and then you don't even have a sniff at getting 2 automatic qualifiers ever in the future. There's actually a downside case that's worse than any upside case for the Big 12 here that nobody ever considers.
Yeah.
And so I think that the downside case is much more likely. I think the Big 12 should take 2 no matter what, 2 every year. It's fun to think that we can get 2 playoff teams in rather than seeing these stinking projections showing 1 playoff team in every freaking year. Get the playoff committee out of it. They stink. And then, cause some havoc in the playoffs.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
Yeah, there's nothing else to say. That's it.
It's just, and we went back and forth on X. There's going to be some years, like Yormark, he's confident that the Big 12 is going to have a multi-bid season this year, right? He may be right. Okay, he may be correct on that. They make it to him. But, if you've got 4 really good Big 12 teams and they beat each other up, you really can't control, I don't know. Again, we're going to go back in the same old formula of propaganda metrics that's going to favor the SEC and the Big Ten, right? It's just... Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, Wild Dude, if the answer is not a bigger playoff. Because 2 is not enough for the Big 12. Could a 3-bid Big 12 team make this happen? A 3 automatic bids. It doesn't mean you're stuck at 3. For example, what if we have a 20-team playoff? Okay? And
right. Mm-hmm.
we play 8 first-round games. 12 versus 20. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. No, or 13 versus 20. 13 versus 20. 14 versus 19. 15 versus 18. 16 versus 17. The 4 winners go to a 16-team playoff. Okay? So with a 20-team playoff, you could have a 3 out-of-bid Big 12, 3 out-of-bid ACC, right?
Yeah.
And because the SEC is still going to want enough at-large bids. Maybe we got to go bigger. Because, wow, dude, I was not a believer in the auto-bids when this first came out. One of the problems I had was it was going to be too permanent. But I don't think we have to have it permanent. But listening to Klatt, listening to Josh Pate, listening to Tony Petit, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Tony Petit did such a great job. Besides all the issues you brought up, the auto bid model, having the playoff format make the regular season more valuable. The auto bids make the regular season more valuable, and the 5+11 does completely the opposite. People are going to dumb down their schedules. The non-conference games, the big ones some of them are going to go away. Notre Dame, USC has no reason to play Notre Dame. None. Their athletic director should be fired if that would happen in a 5+11. Why would USC play 9 conference games and then Notre Dame? It makes no sense if we go to 5+11.
I would love to see, Greg, the 4-4-3-2.
Yeah.
That's not on the table right now. If
no,
that
it ain't.
Be where we get eventually, that sounds like a no-brainer, because then all of a sudden you could have the ACC Big 12 playing game and add value that way too, and you can have access for 3 spots. I mean, that in the best of all worlds, if being realistic here, 4-4-3-2, but we're just not there yet.
Or
I'd love to go and everything.
Yeah,
I hate 5-11. I hate it.
It's terrible. It's gonna be terrible or to get the Big 12 to 3 in the ACC. If the SEC demands 5 auto bids, then 5. You know, make the playoff larger. Still have 3 at-large bids, but make sure the Big 12 and the ACC. So what happens in a 3 auto bid is you're going to have 8 Big 12 teams, 8 ACC teams in the playoff hunt with 3 weeks left to go in the season, Wild Ute. In the 5+11, we're not even close to that happening, right?
Right.
It's the 5+11 does not hold up to the auto bid model. It's not even close. The more you look at it, if we got to change the numbers, if we got to make it bigger, let's do it. Sankey, Petiti, get on it. Wild Ute, go ahead, sir. The floor is back to you.
Well, I agree with everything you're saying here. Like, last thought is you're putting in 5'11", the big crux of the issue is the playoff committee. I'm not saying these people are trying to, goose the numbers or anything like that, but, hey, they've got real pressure on them to make these decisions from, big players and everything. And that, at the end of the day, that affects subconscious, that affects voting and everything. And it's not going to be a benefit for the Big 12 nor the ACC, but especially non-big brands in the Big 12 or the ACC. Your Florida States might benefit sometimes, Miami's in that world, but hey, if you're Iowa State, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. You're just not. And so I just don't see it. That's my beef against that. You're putting too much weight on the playoff committee, who are humans, and we all have biases, pressures. It's going to be unfair no matter what. This isn't the NFL. The NFL has its own play-in model because you're playing everybody on even in the same conference. This is a completely different animal. It needs to be structured appropriately, and a 4-4-2-2 is better than 5-11, but recommend 4-4-3-2.
You got it.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
You're the greatest, man. Appreciate it. Opie, thank you for the super chat. Can someone help me here? I was just in the Holy Smokes Theater and they had a sign on the shake saying out. I then went to 7-Eleven, DQ, Cracker Barrel, and all the fast food joints. There's no shakes anywhere. What is going on? Thank you, Opie. I do appreciate that you came in here. It's been a very passionate discussion on the future of the college football playoff model. And once again,
Call from
Tristan 5.
Tristan 5, can you hold on for just a moment, please?
Yeah.
I do appreciate it. Thank you, Opie. Thank you so very much for your generosity. I do appreciate it. Thank you for your creative writing once again. I needed a little bit of a laugh here as we head late into our third hour. Appreciate it, Opie. Thank you so much. Very humbled by all your generosity to our channel, helping us keep the lights on. Thank you so very much. A couple of comments here. Where was it? Ryan Thomas. Conference tournaments that feed into a 14 playoff. I got to tell you, that has a 0.00001% chance of ever happening. The SEC is not going to be for a four-team national tournament when there's only one SEC representative. That is not going to happen, in my strongly held opinion. There's another comment here. I can't find it. Cranky Tiger. Okay, let's have a 48-team playoff. Starting in October, everybody gets in, so no more crybabies. Thank you, Cranky Tiger, for coming on in. Tristan 5, I appreciate you coming on in and giving us a phone call. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. Well, hey, listen, I want to add to everyone's sentiment here. The only thing to me, and I know I'm repeating this over and over again, but the only thing that makes sense is they accuse you can't have, I mean, that Florida State abomination that happened 2 seasons ago should be the end of the argument. Like, you just can't have committees and polls determining these things. There's always going to be some kind of ridiculous bias that creeps into it. And if you have the AQs, then it's up to the conference that has the AQs to figure out who they send. And that's the best thing. Like, if the SEC really thinks that Alabama deserves to be in it, great. They're one of the AQs. And if I know that this is too idealistic, what I'm about to say, but this is the way I would do it if I had the power to do it. I would want the SEC in a 16-team playoff. I would want the SEC to have 5. I would want the Big Ten to have 5, and I would want the Big 12 and ACC to have a total of 6. Now, I don't know if we're ever going to have some kind of a situation where they merge into a single conference. Maybe the ACC leftovers become part of the Big 12. But I would want the majority of the playoff spots to be outside, not the majority of spots, but I would want them to have more. I mean, the SEC having 5, that's plenty. Same for the Big 10. Let the rest of the country have 6. Okay, that's my opinion on this. I want this to be as national as possible.
Yep, so do I.
And I know I'm just too much of an idealist, and that won't happen. But I want AQs, and then that way they can have their playing games, and that'll be fun. That'll be nice to watch. And you know, the Big
so you're
12 will
saying
have
5-5-3-3-1-3? Yes, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it would be today. Now, in the future, if the ACC, if something goes really wrong and that conference goes away and then the remainders of the ACC end up joining with the Big 12, then it would be like 5 for the SEC, 5 for the Big 10, and then 6 for the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
And the logic there is simple. They would have by far the most schools. I think they should have the most playoff spots. And again, I know no one would ever, the decision makers would never factor in the way I think, but that's how I would want it. 5 is plenty for the SEC. They don't need one. Same goes for the Big 10. That's all I wanted to say, Greg. AQs make all the nonsense go away. And you have an opportunity, if you have 16 teams, you can make it more national with AQs if you just give a big chunk of those to the Big 12. And I think, by the way, that the Big 12 has earned that they've played some exciting football.
Yep.
And that Arizona State game last year against Texas was a terrific game, and Arizona State could have easily won that.
Oh, yeah. They were an eyelash away. Yep.
They were. And then that's the same Texas school that had the ball inside the 10-yard line with a chance to tie it late in the game against the eventual national champion.
Yep.
Right? So I think there's more parity at the top than anyone wants to admit.
Yep.
And so I personally would like to see AQs, and I want to see the largest conference, being the Big 12, get the most playoff spots. That's my strongly held opinion.
Got it. All righty, man.
Greg.
Appreciate it.
I will talk to you later. You take care.
You got it. Thank you, Tristan. Appreciate it, my man. Ryan Thomas, thank you for the super chat. Best format: 2 buns, 2 beef patties, 2 tomatoes, 2 pieces of lettuce, 2 pieces of onions, and 4 pickles. I avoided that horrific ingredient. Ryan Thomas, I apologize. I'm not going to read your full super chat. If you want to take back $3 of your super chat, you go right ahead. I'll send a letter to YouTube, but I'm not going to say that third ingredient that you have listed. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the super chat. All the support you have given us here at college football's peak around the corner. Let's see here. All right. Before we go, we've been on the air for 3 hours. So before you go, please subscribe to our channel if you haven't done it yet. Please subscribe and turn on those notifications. Smash the like button if you've liked our content. Tomorrow, hopefully we'll be more kumbaya here in the studio with the PATC family, the geniuses, the Einsteins. Hopefully we can all get together tomorrow, talk college football. We're going to have a new spotlight team today. It was the Iowa State Cyclones. Hopefully we're going to have more information about the Big 12 Media Days. We covered a lot today. The Iowa State Cyclone, we did the old spotlight on them. There is a story about Clemson and how much they spent on legal fees. I had to push that to the side today because we had so much more to talk about. So I put out the question I poked and prodded. I've asked more than one chatter behind the curtain to see if they can run down in Frisco, Texas, if they can ask a certain question to a certain person about the clandestine phone call that was reported on in May 26th. The clandestine phone call among Smash Capital, several Big 12, several ACC schools. I don't know if we're going to get that information. I don't know what's going to happen. But I did poke and prod. I did some behind the scenes work. The chatter behind the curtain that is in Frisco. Hopefully we get at least some layers of the onion peeled on that story. Probably not, but we are making an attempt here at Peek Around the Corner. So we'll see if that story pops up tomorrow. And everything else that's going on in college football. I want to thank Curtis. Greg, AQs is the only fair way. 32 teams given the Big 10 and SEC 5 each. ACC and the Big 12 4 each. G5 2, then 10 wild card. Thank you, Curtis, for the super chat. I do appreciate it. Interesting. But I don't want to give the committee 10 at-large bids. I want to make that like 3, no more than 3 at-large bids. It's something that so if it's a 20-team playoffs, there's going to be 17 at-large bids. 1 for the group of 5. I think I'm going to start pushing that model. Not that anybody listens to me. I mean, for God's sakes, nobody in the PATC family listens to me. The fat guy from Minnesota. So no one else is going to listen to me. The little general is not going to listen to me. So I'll be in here after all the lights are turned off in the studio. I'm going to be in the corner with my other computer. I'm going to type out a little email. Sir Petiti, as one of your constitutionals, like Archie Bunker used to say, I am giving you this idea, 20-team playoff, 5-5-3-3-1-3. 5-5-3-3-1-3. 13 plays 20. 14 plays 19. 15 plays 18. Or whatever. It all works out. Then you have those 4 winners join the other 12 teams in a 16-team playoff. Make it happen. 20-team playoffs with auto bids. Taking up 17 of them. That's the key. So everybody knows their pathway to the playoffs. And don't make the 5-5-3-3 permanent. Make it so there can be adjustments. Make it a 3-year looking window, 2-year looking window. Get it done. Get it done. That is the great compromise. Paul Revere. I've been Paul Revere today. On my horse. Big 12. This is not a good deal for you. 5 plus 11. It ain't going to work out. It ain't going to work out. 20-team playoffs. I think that is the sweet spot. I think that is what you need to do to thread the needle, to get the SEC on board. 5 auto bids with 3 at-large bids still open. And the SEC thinks they're going to get at least 2 of those. So that's 7 for the SEC. But now the Big 12 and the ACC have 3 auto bids each. They can play a championship game and a play-in game, or they can have 3 play-in games. And they also are available to get the 3 at-large bids. Grow it to 20. Grow it to 20. I need everybody on board. I am going to send a letter to each and every PATC family member. You're going to have to sign the petition. Sign the petition. Go to 20. Go to 20. Cranky Tiger. Committee doesn't pick playoff bids. They only rate the top 25. We're talking about the playoff committee. The one who picks the at-large bids. Thank you, Cranky Tiger. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so very much. Again, they are ranking them from 1 to 12 this year. But then we have the top 5 conference champions that get an automatic bid. That is still in play. Okay, we're going to shut it down. We've been yapping for 3 hours. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I do appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe, turn those notifications on, and before you leave, if you've enjoyed this back and forth, smash that like button and join us tomorrow. Live show, July 9th, tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the Big 12 Media Days again. We're going to have a new spotlight team. Join us. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.